So with that, we will begin. So we'll talk just briefly what is diabetes, some of the risk factors, and some recommendations, and then some of Santa's factors. So diabetes is it's a disease affecting the ability of the pancreas to produce the insulin needed to process glucose or sugar for the body. So insulin is the hormone that the body allows glucose, a hormone in the body that allows glucose into the cells for energy. So if you pictured cells as a locked room, insulin is a key to unlock the cell door to allow the glucose or sugar through to fuel the body to give the energy. So there are a couple of precursors and a couple of types of diabetes. So precursors are insulin resistance and prediabetes, and two types of diabetes being type 1 and type 2. So insulin resistance is when the cells in the muscles, the fat, and the liver don't respond well to the action of insulin to drive the glucose into the cells. So the pancreas works harder, produces more insulin to overcome the cell's weaknesses, and that keeps your blood glucose normal. Insulin resistance usually comes before prediabetes and type 2 diabetes. So prediabetes, you might also hear called borderline diabetes, impaired glucose tolerance or impaired fasting glucose. And this is when the blood glucose levels have begun to rise, but not yet to the extent of a diabetes diagnosis. So things are getting a little bit harder to work. Type 2 diabetes is when the body is not making or using insulin well. That could be discovered at any age. It's typically discovered during middle age, and type 2 diabetes is the most common type of diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is when the pancreas does not make any insulin to process the glucose, so that has to be provided by injections. Type 1 diabetes is usually discovered in childhood or young adults. It could be caused by genetics, environmental factors, like chemicals or viruses, or maybe an autoimmune condition where the immune system attacks the body. So some of the risk factors are people who have a BMI over 25, and BMI is a ratio of weight to height. So there's an equation where you would plug those in and it'll give you a number. So they want that number under 25. Another risk factor would be if for men, if your waist measures more than 40 inches, or for women, if your waist measures more than 35 inches. Another risk factor would be as if your waist is greater than your hips. So they would call that a waist to hip ratio greater than 1. The risk factors might be if you're 45 or older, if you have a parent or a sibling with diabetes, so a family history, or women with a history of gestational diabetes, or if they've given birth to a baby over 9 pounds. And there's another one that I think I missed putting in this, is that babies who were born to a mother who had gestational diabetes are at an increased risk as they grow older as well. Other risk factors might be if you're African American or Hispanic or Latino American, American Indian, Alaska Native, some Pacific Islanders, and Asian Americans are at higher risk. If you're physically active, less than 3 days a week, if you're a tobacco user, or if you have high stress level. And do keep these in mind as we start to think about and see what Santa's life looks like. So some nutritional recommendations. The plate method is the recommendation from the American Diabetes Association. I like this one because it's super simple. You don't have to measure anything. It doesn't take a lot of like intense thought or work. You just use it, so it's a visual way, so you don't have to bust out a calculator or like measuring cups or anything like that. So it's a visual way, including all of the food groups, and it measures meal portions just by looking at them, just using a typical 9-inch dinner plate. So you get your dinner plate, and so half of that, you can see in this picture, half of that is filled with non-starchy vegetables. like leafy greens. I think cruciferous vegetables like cauliflower and broccoli. And so that's half your plate. Simple, done. Maybe a salad. And then a quarter of your plate would be a protein like a lean meat and protein, so that it would fit on that quarter of your plate. But another way to see it is if you look at your hand, you look at the palm of your hand, if it would, so that one serving size of protein would be about the size of the palm of your hand as well as the width. So that makes it super easy to be like, hey, that's about the size of my hamburger patty. So I just love how this really is simple to me, and I go for simple. And then that last quarter of your plate is a grain or a starchy veggie. You'll see some illustrations that actually put the fruit into that. So that's and carbs, so like toast or whatever. So these are how, this is one recommendation for kind of that meal planning and what your meals would look like, just using your dinner plate, dividing it up and putting stuff in each of those sections. So that's what I like about this one, is the simplicity. The Mediterranean diet, I've been hearing more and more of this brought in. You know what, I actually heard, it's not diabetes related, but I actually read something a couple weeks ago that this is helpful, or could be helpful, to prevent Alzheimer's. So that's cool. So the Mediterranean diet, and so the Mediterranean diet blends healthy eating, which is veggies, fruits, whole grains, healthy fats, fish, poultry, beans, eggs, and dairy, with traditional Mediterranean flavors and cooking methods. And then the DASH diet. So DASH stands for Dietary Approaches to Stopping Hypertension, but it's also, these are all healthy measures to incorporate into your nutritional lifestyle, I guess. So the DASH diet emphasizes veggies, fruit, lower fat dairy, and reduced red meat, sweets, and sodium, also called salt. So the DASH diet and the Mediterranean diet were both found to be associated with a 20% decrease in the risk of future type 2 diabetes. And DASH-like eating patterns have led to improvements in insulin sensitivity. And one of the dietitians that I work with, she gave really great advice, I think, is that look at all of these and they're all healthy. So take from them what works for you. And I think I like that approach. It's like, oh, I like this and I like this, and they all work together. So you don't have to get overwhelmed by it. You can take what works and take what works with your lifestyle, and which you can kind of like incorporate in the most simple way. So I like their simplicity. So forgive me, I don't remember where I got these stats, but so what I found was that Santa Claus, or Saint Nick, is 5 feet 7 inches tall. So that's his estimated height for the purposes of fun and reindeer games, as well as his weight, again estimated, and this is his pre-cookie weight, at 260 pounds, and that would put his BMI at 40.7. If we take a look at the pictures that we have for Santa Claus, his waist does appear larger than his hips, and that does indicate that there's a fat accumulation in the belly, also called visceral fat, and so that's increasing his risk of insulin resistance. There is record of him smoking a pipe. He has been photographed drinking sugary drinks. He does maintain an accurate and extensive list of who's naughty and who's nice. And he employs and manages a large population of elves, building toys for the world's children throughout the year, and then delivers them all in one night at midnight. So this year, 2021, Santa Claus turns 1,751 years old. He is of Turkish descent, but he's been living at the North Pole for 16 centuries. So we, for the purposes of our fun and reindeer games, are going to assume that his diet is similar to that of Norway, which is the country of the second most northern city in the world, because the North Pole is the first northernmost. So a typical Norwegian diet is fish, lamb, cold cuts, reindeer, moose, and duck. We will assume that Santa Claus does not eat reindeer or moose. So the Norwegian growing season is only 100 to 190 days long. So that's about a third to a half of the year, if I'm doing some quick math correctly. In 1995, it's an old stat, but it's the latest I could get. So in 1995, 31% of Norwegians consumed vegetables only 1 or 2 times per week. Traditional Norwegian bread is made of barley, oats, and rye, so whole grains, or potatoes, and is typically consumed at both breakfast and lunch. Norwegian breakfast usually consists of muesli, cereal, or bread, and butter, accompanied by milk, tea, coffee, or juice. Bread may be served with jam, mackerel, and tomato sauce, goat cheese, ham, salami, or soft-boiled eggs. A Norwegian lunch is typically an open-faced sandwich, and dinner is usually meat, boiled potatoes, and vegetables. So that's likely Santa Claus's typical diet. So let's look at how he gets around one night a year. So he is known for overindulgence at least once per year. So beginning his annual global circumnavigation in the Republic of Kiribati, I may have mispronounced that, followed by New Zealand and Australia, children in Australia treat him to a cold beer. Moving on to Japan and Asia, children in China leave apples for Santa. He eventually reaches Sweden, where he can warm up and energize with a cup of coffee, followed by some rice pudding in Denmark. Children in the Netherlands, let me go back here. Children in the Netherlands make sure Santa's reindeer keep fueled up with carrots, hay, and water, and a grateful Santa leaves the children marzipan, chocolate coins, hot cocoa, and mandarin oranges. In Germany and Switzerland, Santa enjoys letters from his adoring fans, and this must warm his heart and relieve some stress of the night. Italian children leave Santa another pick him up of cappuccino with strafoli, I might mispronounce that as well, deep fried balls of sweet dough. So I'm picturing some donuts or maybe donut holes. In France, Santa enjoys biscuits while his reindeer are given another boost of carrots. And in England, he's given mince pie filled with dried fruit or meat and a nip of sherry. Off to Ireland, he's likely to receive more mince pies and a pint of Guinness. Children in Argentina leave some hay and water for his trusty reindeer, and Santa receives a spongy, rich fruitcake filled with rum. And as he nears wrapping up his midnight travel around the world, children in the US leave Santa delicious cookies with a glass of milk for dipping and refreshment, and some carrots and oats to finish off the night for the reindeer. So just a couple more stats with some recommendations here. So wellness experts recommend at least 150 minutes of exercise, increasing the heart rate, and 2 days of resistance exercises, so building lean muscle each week. So 150 minutes of cardio and 2 days of resistance each week. So Samantha, we can have a little fun if you don't mind. Do you want to launch? Hey, she's all over at that first poll, guys. We'll have some fun here. So does Santa play reindeer games throughout the year? Of course he does, or probably not. Too busy getting ready for Christmas. All right. We've got 3. Great, great. All right. And Samantha, did you want to share that? 4 of 5. 100%. Santa's not getting his exercise in. No reindeer games for that man. All right. Thanks, guys. Perfect. And I think we can, I'm going to close that out, Miss Samantha. I don't know if it's your screen, mine, or both, but that's totally cool. Okay, so I think we have another. There we go. For whatever reason, my slides won't advance. So same thing. Does Santa Claus have diabetes? Looking at all of these, his lifestyle being the diet. Does he exercise? Does he not? The stress, what we can already see. He loves his Coca-Cola, and I cannot blame the man. Smokes tobacco. We've seen him with that pipe there. So, ooh, 2-1. Any other takers on it? Any other takers on the poll? I like this. I like it. Very cool. It looks like you shared that, Samantha, so thank you very much. So, yep, 2-1 that he probably does have diabetes. Now, this might be my favorite slide because this is super cool. This picture, I got it from, it's listed on there, stnicholascenter.org. This is what he probably looked like. It's a 2004 medical artist rendering of what St. Nicholas would have looked like based on his skull removed temporarily from his crypt in the 1950s. So science does some really cool stuff.